The weapons modification glitch in Fallout 4 really allows you to craft some deadly god tier weapons, and in this guide I am going to show you my personal 5 favorite combinations. Make sure to stay for the last one, because not every weapon has to be based on the amount of damage it does or some magical feature. Some can be just for fun. Hi, I'm Mo, and I'm trapped in Fallout. Now, before we start to look at these weapon modifications or the weapon modification glitch, let's quickly talk about what the glitch actually is. So in simple terms, it is to take the modification of one weapon and apply it to a totally different weapon. So in this case, let's just pretend that I want to take something like this, the night vision scope, which is a scope specifically designed for this weapon, the missile launcher. I can take that modification and apply it to a totally different weapon, such as say the combat shotgun. And this is the end result of using this glitch. It is to effectively take the modification from one weapon and apply it to a totally different weapon. Now, there are some universal steps that we will need to perform in order to do this glitch. So really the only thing that changes are the weapon. So you can take any combination of any weapon and try and mix and match between these two weapons to see what sort of results you get. So for the first weapon we're going to create, and I'm going to go through the steps in detail for this first weapon, and I'm sort of going to gloss over it for the remaining weapons on the grounds that this should probably explain the steps as part of us building the first weapon. I'm actually going to take the second modification. So I'm going to take the targeting computer, which appears as a second modification, and I'm going to apply it to the combat shotgun. So the steps to do this are as follows. You first need to make sure that the weapon you take the modification from appears on the top of the weapon modification screen, and the weapon that you're going to apply the modification to appears on the second list on the weapon modification screen. And you can easily do that by just renaming your weapons to a numbered system such as 1 and 2. So I'm going to rename the missile launcher to 1, and I'm going to rename my combat shotgun to 2. With this done, we're going to perform a quick save, because using this glitch you could accidentally scrap your weapon and lose it in the process. So exit the screen and perform a quick save. Now before I do that, if you happen to be playing on survival, then you won't be able to perform a quick save. Instead, you can have something like a bed and just do a quick 1 hour sleep in it, which would act as your quick save. So let's quick save. Now with that done, the second step is actually the glitch itself. You need to somehow take a modification from one weapon and apply it to the second weapon. And to do this, you need to press the scrap and modify button at exactly the same time. And if you do that right, you will see a glitched screen. Now, the problem in this instance with this weapon is when you press the scrap and modify button, you will be on a glitched screen, and I'll show you that in a moment, but it will highlight this first option here, the standard barrel. The modification we want to take is in the second slot, is this targeting computer. So we want to get to a state where we're on the glitch screen and we're highlighting this option here. And to do that, you will need to press the scrap and modify button at the same time when you're on this screen and before the glitch screen appears, which again, as I said, I'll show you. You have to press down on your left analog stick, and you'll have to do this quick enough such that you appear on this glitch screen and this option is highlighted. So I'll try and do that in one shot now. And if you do it right, this is what it will look like. So right now I am on a glitched screen. I'm seeing the scrap menu appear on top, but if you look on the bottom, I'm actually also looking at the modification window for the missile launcher with the second option highlighted. Now, if you just pressed the scrap and modify button and you did not press the down on the left analog stick at the same time, then the first option would have been highlighted, i.e. the standard barrel. But because I did press down, it is instead highlighting the standard size. So this is actually very tricky to do. It's taken me a few attempts to do it, but it is entirely possible. Now when you are on this screen, you need to follow the following instructions quite carefully. Pressing the wrong button can actually screw it up quite easily. You need to first press the scrap button, and the moment you do that, you should see the combat shotgun. From this, again notice that the short barrel, i.e. the second modification, is highlighted. Now you need to press the right button on your D-pad, and if you do it right, you should see the options for the missile launcher whilst actually modifying the combat shotgun. Now just go down to the targeting computer and just attach it to your shotgun, which might mean you need to craft it like this. With that done, you should now notice that the targeting computer is actually attached to your combat shotgun. Now to not mess it up, you need to now totally exit the entire system. Now as a result, if you go into your inventory and select the weapon and just take it out, you now have a targeting computer attached to your shotgun. So let's quickly take this out for a spin just to see what it looks like. The beauty of this particular system is you actually get the targeting molecule to appear when using the combat shotgun, and because you've attached the targeting system, it actually converts your shotgun shells into missiles like so. So now that I've got the target on there, if I just shoot up, it actually fires missiles instead of firing shells. So if I just fire up, notice that it's actually fired, it's quite hard to see, but it's actually fired a number of missiles. Now when you fire a shotgun, typically you're firing basically a number of pellets, 8 I think to be exact. But because you have attached the targeting computer, it instead of firing shells, it actually fires missiles. And on top of that, you can also track your targets because of the auto targeting feature of the missile modification. So just to show you how powerfully devastating this combination is, I'm going to try and find some enemies and I'm going to try to target them from a distance and try and take them out, where the taking out bit will be done automatically because of the targeting feature. So and just by luck, something has spawned right over there, so I'm going to try and get a bit of a target on it like so and just fire up, and with that it's been taken out with little to no effort. Now the really good thing about it is that each missile actually does the damage that a typical missile would do and not the amount of damage that a shotgun shell would do. So you can use this to take out a vast number of enemies rather easily. Now the next weapon I'm going to show you, thankfully, does not need to use the weapon modification glitch, but it is still the same thing under the hood. It's taking one modification from one weapon and attaching it to a different weapon to get a rather interesting effect. And in this case we need two very specific weapons. We need Lorenzo's artifact gun, which you can get by following the Cabot House quest line, and you need to get your hand on a never-ending gamma gun, a legendary never-ending gamma gun that has an unlimited ammo capacity. Now this one you can acquire via the quest as mentioned, and this one you can get by repeating the legendary farming method, which I can link in the description of this video or the comments of this video if you want to get your hands on that. Once you have both of these weapons, you simply need to remove the Lorenzo's artifact gun mod, and you can do that by going into the weapon, going into Lorenzo's artifact, and just applying something else like the standard disc or the deep disc, and as a result the Lorenzo's artifact modification from this weapon will be removed. And now if you go into the never-ending gamma gun and go to the standard disc, you will be able to attach the Lorenzo's artifact to that weapon. And you also need to go into the muzzle and you need to apply a signal repeater to this gun as well. Now as a result, you have now created a rather interesting weapon where you can fire an unlimited amount of gamma rounds from this weapon that also has this effect of basically staggering an enemy and just taking it out in one spot, and I'll show you that right now. So while this gun may not do as much damage as the previous auto targeting shotgun, this legendary Lorenzo's gamma gun has a rather interesting effect, and I'll show you right now. So if I go close enough to an enemy and just basically wail on them, notice that I have this interesting exploding effect, and it staggers the enemy and just pushes them back and it totally takes them out. So again, I'm just going to go close enough to an enemy over there and just fire away, and they virtually will not be able to do much about it. You don't have to also be very precise with your targeting. You can be, if you like, just close enough, and because it's got this unlimited ammo, you will not have to reload your weapon and you can just sort of go to town on them. So let me see if I can locate one more enemy somewhere. So there's one over there somewhere. So notice they're sort of hiding behind the cabinet over there, so I won't directly aim at them but close enough to them, and notice it's basically taking them out because of the sort of exploding effect it has. So let's go and use this on a couple of more enemies just to sort of show you how this works. The really good thing about this weapon is it also has this area of effect like aura to it. So right around the corner on the right, I know there are some enemies, so I'll take out this turret right over here and then I'll go over there. So notice there's a couple there, so again just take them all out in one go, and again not much of contest right here. So this is a rather interesting weapon to have, and it does a significant amount of damage, and I can quite quickly take out enemies. And if you made it this far into this video, then please consider liking this video. I really enjoy reading and replying to as many comments as I can, so please do consider leaving a comment in this video telling me about the different weapon combinations that you have made and any interesting results that you have got. The next weapon we're going to look at is what I like to call the legendary MIRV pipe pistol, and for this you will need a fat man and you will need a pipe pistol. Now this is going to to use exactly the same steps as the first weapon I showed in this guide, the auto-targeting shotgun, with the exception of having to press down on the left analog stick. You won't need to do that, you just need to press the scrap and modify button. So to do that, first of all, go to the Fat Man, then go to the standard launcher and make sure you can build a MIRV launcher. So let's just do that and get that out of the way, and then make sure you've got something like the standard launcher selected instead. And for the pipe pistol, you don't need any requirements whatsoever. So the first thing we need to do again is rename our Fat Man to something like 1. Again, this is just to make sure it appears on the top of the list, and rename your pipe pistol to 2 to make sure that it appears on the bottom of the list. And just exit and do a quick save. Go back in, and this time highlight your first weapon, and as said, this time you don't need to press down on the left analog stick, you just need to press the scrap and modify button at exactly the same time. And again, if you do it right, you should see this screen where you have the option to scrap the weapon and modify at the same time. So press A on the scrap menu or whatever your option is, so scrap the item, and you should now see your pipe pistol. When you're on this screen, your first modification should be highlighted. From here, just press right on the D-pad and you should now be able to apply the MIRV launcher to the gun. So just apply this, and once applied, just exit the entire thing totally, and your weapon should look like this. So let's take this out for a spin. So similar to the auto-targeting shotgun where I end up using shells but I actually fire missiles, this time this weapon uses 38 ammo, but when it fires, it actually fires mini nukes, for example, like so. And you can probably see how devastatingly powerful this can get very quickly. So I happen to be in this area and I'm just going to try and take out these enemies as best I can. So I'll go into something like VATS just to sort of show you that you don't even need to be super highly accurate with this weapon. As long as there's distance between you and the enemy, you should be okay. So just like that, I've just taken out 2 enemies and one's gone left and one's gone south. So again, I'm going to do the same thing over here. So there's a power armored user over there, which typically tend to be quite powerful. So I just need a little bit of distance to make sure I don't end up taking myself out, which is something you can do with this weapon. So that should be good enough. So again, I just fire at them and hopefully that should be enough to take them both out. The other thing you can do, oh, he actually didn't. I probably missed, so I'll go a little bit closer and I'll take it out manually. And like that, as I said, you can take yourself out as well. So as said, you can also rain down some pretty devastatingly powerful mini nukes with this. So I can do this if I really want to. And in this instance, I did manage to take out someone somewhere, but the idea is you now have the humble pipe pistol firing mini nukes totally at your leisure. For our 4th weapon, we're going to create a weapon that has the potential to do over 200,000 worth of damage, and it's an incredibly powerful weapon. And for this one, we actually need to use 3 different weapons. We need a pipe pistol, we need a plasma pistol, and we need a railway rifle. And we're going to take 2 mods from 2 of these weapons and apply it to 1 base weapon. This is also to show you that you're not restricted to just a 1-for-1 weapon combination. You can take mods from multiple weapons and apply to the same weapon. So to do this, again, I said we need a pipe pistol, plasma pistol, and a railway rifle. The first thing we'll need to do is take the pipe pistol and we'll take the first modification, the standard receiver, and from that we're going to apply the rapid automatic receiver and we're going to apply that to a railway rifle. So that means we need to rename our pipe pistol to something like 1 so that it appears on the top of the list, and we'll take our railway rifle and name it to something like 2 so that it appears on the bottom. We'll also have the plasma pistol, but we don't need that in this instance. We'll use it when we apply the second mod onto our base weapon, which is the railway rifle. So again, as due course, we are going to do a quick save and we're going to go back, and this time we're just going to press the scrap and modify button because we are going to target this first weapon modification. So let's just do that really quickly. And again, if you do that, you should see this screen, the scrap menu, and the moment you press scrap, we should now see the railway rifle. If you now press right on your D-pad, you should now start to see the options from the pipe pistol instead. And we're going to apply, as said, the rapid automatic receiver, which is this one here. And with that done, you've now basically done the first step. Now, before we look at anything else, just notice that the damage on this weapon currently says 75. This is going to become important in just a moment, but just make a mental note of that. that. Now we're going to take another modification from the plasma pistol. From the plasma pistol, we're going to target the second mod, which means we now need to use the second variation of the weapon modification glitch. So for the first one, we just press the scrap and modify button, but because this time we're going to take the modification from the second weapon, we're going to have to press the scrap and modify button as well as pressing down on the left analog stick. And the weapon modification we want from the short barrel is going to be the flamer barrel. So let's rename the plasma pistol to 1. This will force the plasma pistol to appear on the top. And now we're going to exit. And again, we're going to do a quick save. And as said, this time we're going to press the scrap and modify button, but we also need to press down on the left analog stick. Again, this might take a few attempts, so let's try to do it. And in this instance, I did manage to get it. I can see the scrap menu and I can see the plasma pistol in the background. So I'm going to press A on the scrap menu. And now notice that the second option is highlighted. Now I'm going to press right on the D-pad. And now I should be able to apply the flamer barrel to my railway rifle. And with that, if you now notice on the left hand side, the damage of this weapon has jumped all the way from 75 to 65k. And now we'll just take this weapon and we'll take it for a spin. To actually achieve a damage of over 200k, you basically need to use the weapon whilst sneaking, as this will apply a sneak modifier to it. So if I try and sneak up to this guy and use the weapon, then notice I actually got a sneak modifier of 2 point. Now obviously times 265 isn't 200, but you can bump up your sneak to a rather high level where the modification applied from the sneak modifier will take your weapon damage all the way over 200k. So again, I'm going to try and sneak up on this guy as well. I didn't manage to do it, but I think you can sort of get the idea. You can use a combination of sneaking around and this weapon to take your damage all the way over to 200k. But here's the other thing, you don't need to sneak, because the amount of damage this does, the weapon itself, is so high and it's so crazy, it's pretty much, it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to stop sneaking around and I'm just going to basically just open up this weapon in front of all the enemies that I see. So let me just quickly find some more enemies, and as I see them, I'll shoot them. And like that, they didn't stand a chance. Now remember that this weapon got a flamer barrel attached to it, as well as an automatic receiver. So each shot landed is doing 65, but the reality is you're firing so many so quickly that it really isn't an issue anymore. So, and just like that. And in this case, I basically just tapped my trigger button. I'm going to try and find one more enemy somewhere around the corner, hopefully, and take them out, just to show you once again just how powerful this weapon is. So there, we just happened to run into a legendary gunner, our luck. And like that, again, no chance, they were taken out rather quickly. As said at the very beginning of this video, not every weapon combination has to be based on damage. Some can be just for fun, and this is one of my more fun ones to use. I won't give it away what the weapon looks like, but let's just go with the flow. So again, I'm going to rename this combat knife to 2, because I want this to actually be the weapon I apply a modification to, and I want to take something from the sledgehammer and apply it to the combat knife. So I'm going to rename my sledgehammer to 1. This way it forces the sledgehammer to appear on the top, and I'm going to rename my combat knife to 2. And now I'm going to perform a quick save. Go back in, and this time I'm just going to press the scrap and modify button again, exactly the same time. And now I'm just going to press the scrap button followed by right on the D-pad. And now I can start to apply the hammer from the sledgehammer directly onto the combat knife. So again, I won't say much, I'll leave it to your imaginations to decide what I'm going for, but I basically go for this type of weapon. So this does help me to role play a little bit. You can probably tell what this weapon looks like. I'll leave it to you to decide. In fact, why don't you use the comment section of this video to tell me what you think this weapon looks like. So I'll apply it and I will exit, and I'll just show you what the weapon looks like. So if I just quickly go into there, that's what the weapon is. But sometimes you can just apply different combinations of different things to different weapons just to see what things look like. So this is, if you like, a personal favorite of mine, something I like using, and something that I do tend to have a little bit of fun playing with. So again, let's take this out for a spin. So right now I'm in Concord and I happen to run into these raiders, and again, nothing too fancy. I'm just going to use this weapon just to see what the animations play out like. And it doesn't look too bad, it looks rather quite cool. In fact, let me go into first person just to show you. And as said, this is more of a roleplay than anything else. The weapon itself behaves like a knife, so you have the animations from a knife, but you have the sledgehammer on top, so it does feel like, let's just say, a special hammer of sorts. In this guide, I went through 5 of my personal favorite weapon combinations to make in Fallout 4 using the weapon modification glitch, essentially something that converts the survival mode of this game into what I call easy mode. If you like the weapons in this guide and enjoy using glitches in Fallout 4 in general, then make sure to check out this video where I go through a number of broken glitches and exploits in Fallout 4. Click on the video you see on the screen right now to find out more about some of the more insane glitches in Fallout 4.